Hey, welcome to HVAC Full Blast. I'm Stephen Ross.
And I'm Mary Carter.
This is our first bonus episode. We're kind of excited about it. So we did a webinar live. We had Q&A going in the comments while we were talking. And so we wanted to take that and kind of bring it to the podcast.
It's a little different than our normal format, and it's a bit more conversational with some guests that we brought in and out of the conversation. So just enjoy the episode. And if you have any feedback for us, we'd love to hear it at HVAC_full_blast@traintechnologies.com.
And most importantly, we feel like there's some good ideas in there to blow it out between now and the end of the year. So take a listen and tell us what you think. And good luck making money.
It's the 25C tax credit, 2025 C for credit, ends December 31, 2025. Like that's how you can remember it. There's no more mystery or shrouding around it. It's the 25C tax credit. So that's what we're here to talk about. I'm Mary Carter. Stephen, I think most people are probably familiar with you at this point. I hope so.
Yeah, it's been fun. So if you don't know, Mary and I, we've been doing a podcast, so you're welcome to check out the podcast. We've done a few webinars like this over the last year or two, just in general, and so kind of combining podcast and webinars today. I thought I would kick us off with just a little story, and this is because I'm old now, and so when you get old, you tell stories. I mean, at least my dad does. Here's my story for being old. I got into heating and air in 2007, end of 2007, kind of beginning of 2008. And in 2008, the economy crashed. So we had this big, kind of great recession, as they called it, which was a lot of just driven by new home construction kind of ground to a halt. We had mortgage issues. Mortgage rates were really high, blah, blah, blah. The government came out with a tax credit program to stimulate the economy. And part of that was a heating and air tax credit. It was $1,500 residentially. It didn't matter whether it's air conditioner, heat pump, gas furnace. If it met the efficiency rating, it was 30% of the total bill up to $1,500. And so I was new to the industry. I was had been in for a few years. The other similarity is we were changing refrigerants back then. So we were going from R22 to R410A. And so that was kind of, going on in the background. The new equipment was going to be more expensive because of the refrigerant change. So you had maybe some contractor fears of how that would affect purchases. And so all of those ingredients, I mean, if I look to today, I would say, hey, we had COVID. And so we had this economic drain. And so the government came out with a program to kind of stimulate the economy. We have a tax credit and it's ending and we're in the middle of a refrigerant change. And so there's a decent amount of similarities. And so just to share kind of how 2010 went, it was my third year in heating and air. Was really excited because I finally understood the difference between a heat pump and an air conditioner and was trucking along selling. And we did, the tax credit was there 2008, 2009, but 2010 was the end of the tax credit. So we had taken advantage of it. We had been talking about it with homeowners and promoting it. And one of the things that maybe caught us a little off guard, we thought we had planned well, and I think we did plan. We were surprised at how many people waited to the absolute last minute to take advantage of it. And so as an individual producer, I was an in-home salesperson, RSP. I had the biggest month I had ever had, December of 2010. And I thought I was going to take the month off. My goal that year was to sell $2 million, which was a decent amount of money back in 2010. I mean, if you adjusted for inflation today, it was a pretty decent goal. I hit my goal by mid-November. That was my annual goal. And I thought, I'm just going to coast to the finish line. I'm pretty much done. And wouldn't you know, I mean, just the calls that came in, I mean, it was unbelievable what we sold between about November 15th and December 31st. So I think that's what made us think, hey, here's what's going to happen. The tax credit's ending. You've been talking about it probably with your homeowners, your customers. If you're a territory manager, you've been talking about it with your dealers. we've had some good success. Some dealers have jumped on board. They've offered it to homeowners. We've seen some good success there, but I think we're going to have a rush at the end. Mary, I'm just, my crystal ball, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I think we're going to have a rush at the end. What do you think?
I love it. I mean, the history usually dictates these things and their predictability, and that's probably spot on and exactly why we are jumping on this topic right now here in August while we still have a little bit of agility to make some changes and also maybe educate some areas where we're not as strong on the 25C tax credit. I think a lot of the conversations that we've had at this point have really been more around, talk to your tax professional and kind of leave it high level. Maybe now's the time to just like dig in a little bit deeper on that layer. We know what the parameters are going to be and get some encouragement to close those deals. So to help us do that, we have solicited the wonderful Mark Woodruff, who is going to help us maybe understand from a portfolio position where we have some strengths. And there he is, Mark. Welcome.
Hello.
And we want to understand from the equipment side, what do we have to leverage? And then from the selling side, how can we really, really perfect that message so that we're not just doing the broad brushstrokes of, and by the way, there's a credit, talk to your tax professional and, walk away.
Absolutely. Yeah. So at the beginning of the year, I think we had hit it pretty hard that we had a really big advantage when we went from R410 to 454B with our new 15-SEER single stage. That is the lowest cost method, the lowest cost product to qualify for the tax credit. So do not forget about that. Let's take advantage of it while it's still there, like Stephen was saying, right? So I would say that's our number one option that we have for homeowners. Although I'll say at the same time, don't forget about the 17-SEER multi-speed. Okay, great product. Fantastic efficiency and even better performance and comfort than our old two-stage unit that we used to have with R410. So I would say those are your two menu choice items right now for the back half of the year if you're looking at tax credits.
Yeah, can I put my dealer hat on for a second? So as you know, owned a heating and air company for the past 7 years. So a couple of questions. So when you say, hey, we got a 15-SEER that meets it, we talking both heat pump and air conditioner, Mark?
True. Yes, absolutely.
All right. And in terms of tonnages, like 2 to 5 tons, like the whole lineup, or what's?
Oh, you're going to test me now. I believe it's on the single stage. I want to say it was all the way up through 4 tons on either the AC or the heat pump, and all the way through 5 tons on the other. But I don't remember the exact thing off the top of my mind right now.
Because I think, and I've been on the receiving end of some sales calls from our competitors, and they'll come in and they'll say, hey, we've got a tax credit qualifying matchup. And what they mean is we have one matchup. It's in the 2.5 ton size. You got to use a 5-ton coil with, the biggest furnace on the market. And you're like, well, that doesn't fit a 2.5 ton load on a house, right? So I think, so what we're saying is, hey, we've got plenty of matchups in the sweet spot in terms of their actual matchups you might actually put in a home, right? They're priced competitively. So this is the lowest entry point. We've got air conditioner matchups. We got heat pump matchups. We got a lineup. I mean, that's what we're saying. Is that right?
100%.
And all right. So tell me about the 17-SEER. So one of the things we talked about was dual fuel matchups. And we've been offering dual fuel for the last few years to get the tax credit, but you had to have the heat pump, you had to have the right coil, you had to have the right furnace. So what's different about the multi-stage 17?
What's awesome about the 17-SEER multi-speed is that we actually have tax credit qualified combinations. I'm pretty sure it was all the way out to 5 tons in coil only combinations, which is fantastic, because again, if it's all about trying to get your homeowner a low-cost solution to qualify for the tax credit, leaving that old furnace in the house that they already have is obviously the best thing you can do for them.
So, I mean, I was looking at houses. I mean, I had a realtor this week. We're out looking at houses. And of course, I'm a heating and air guy, so I can't help it. So I'm like, trying to check it out and see what they got. But we had one house where you're looking at the furnace, bright, shiny new furnace, although single stage, just basic, and it was a few years old. but the air conditioner is ancient. So you're saying, hey, in that scenario, that homeowner, or in my case, I buy the house, I don't have to replace a perfectly good furnace. I can just go heat pump coil. I'm going to need the right thermostat, right? Because now we got to be able to, and I need what, an outdoor temperature sensor? Is that typically how we set that up?
It's built into the equipment, right? So everything you need is already there.
No kidding. All right. So as a contractor, man, I don't have to order extra parts. You got the outdoor temperature sensor built in, a thermostat that can handle 2 heat. How do you set the balance point on the dual fuel? It does all the thinking for you?
Dealer's choice, right? You can either let the system operate out of the box method, which is going to say, hey, if I can't meet the load with my heat pump mode, then I'm going to switch over to the gas furnace, or you can set a switch over temperature. Again, dealer's choice on what they want to do for the homeowner there.
One of the changes this year, if you were a contractor selling to a homeowner, you just had to provide the receipt. We had to give them the AHRI information to say, hey, this system qualified. What's the tweak this year? There's a 4-digit something?
Yeah, whenever they submit for the actual tax credit, they file their taxes next year. They are going to have what's called a manufacturer's what's the name of it? I can't remember, but a manufacturer's PIN number, basically. Like you said, it's a 4-digit number. Ours is B8T9. I know Mary likes to say, what was it?
It's Bravo 8 Tango 9 for all my phonetic alphabet people.
There you go. But yeah, so that's our number, and that is for all of our brands. Anything that we produce as a company. So Trane, American Standard, Run True, Ameristar, any of the products that we make, that's the 4-digit number that the homeowner is going to need to have when they file their claim on their taxes next year.
Is there anything else, Mark, we should hit on from a technical standpoint, or should we jump into the business planning piece of this? Or
I think from a product standpoint, you hit the highlights. Again, guys, the single stage 15-SEER product line and our 17-SEER multi-speed, 2 great choices as we're going into the back half of the year. And Stephen, I hope exactly like you said, right? I hope what we see is, dealers can use this as a way to, promote some activity, right? Hey, the tax credits are about to run out. This is your last chance, last call, right?
I know. I'm sitting here pretty jealous because not too long ago, before this tax credit existed, I had to replace an outdoor unit and had a perfectly good furnace, and the recommendation was just go with that outdoor. But and I did, and I'm still happy with that purchase. But I'm bitter that I didn't get an incentive. So don't be like me and let your homeowners not know about that, because that would have been a nice little extra.
Yeah, just free money.
Yeah.
How often do you get that? Right.
Well, and speaking of free money, there are other things that you can do to really load in the benefit of tax credits, rebates, other promotions, and then, of course, my favorite, an affordable monthly payment plan. Put that all into a nice little bundle, and you really make it irresistible for a homeowner to go with you, especially when you've sold first and foremost, your services, right? The product then just becomes the extra bonus that, oh, by the way, they're also buying a top quality line system. So maybe Stephen, when you were doing some of that aggressive selling there at the end, what were some of the other tools that you were using to put together that proposal to make it really compelling?
Yeah. I had a business partner owning a heating and air company. I was kind of the sales marketing side of the fence. And then my business partner, Tim, was the operations business planning side. And so Tim and I would sit down and we would kind of run through a few different scenarios. And we did this almost quarterly to go, hey, what do we see coming up next quarter? And so if you had something like this on the horizon where you'd go, hey, we think maybe it's just summertime, we're going to get really busy. Maybe it's like this scenario. There's a couple things Tim and I would talk about ahead of time. First of all, what are we going to do from an advertising standpoint? What's our advertising strategy? What's our pricing strategy? And kind of dissect it. So Mary, if we were to just tackle that, let's talk about that affordable monthly payment. Let's start there, right? What do you think the monthly payments should be if you were to say, all right, let's think through, somebody's going to get a tax credit. They're going to get that money back, let's say in April, it's October or it's November. So should we be offering long-term financing? Should we say, hey, 12 months, no interest, no payments? Should we, what do you think? How would you advertise that?
Well, the most effective advertising in that space really is to look onto the rate sheet and find those really low, usually 0% APR interest payment plans. Those are most attractive. That gets people, whether they have great credit, good credit, that gets all the people through the door. Wow, they're offering free financing. I want to know more about that deal. One thing that's really interesting too is financing really mimics, especially in the HVAC industry, very much can mimic what's going on in the car industry. And if you're watching any local news, you'll notice that car ads rarely advertise 0% right now. So a lot of programs have other no interest options. I know with the Train Technologies programs, we have the 0%. We've got a 3.99 for 60 months. We now brand new have a 2.99 for 120 months. So really anything in that low interest financing is going to be the most appealing and get people through the door. Unfortunately, what we see a lot of people lean into is no interest if paid in full within 18 months. First of all, advertising that plan, no interest if paid in full within 18 months is a mouthful. And honestly doesn't read nice on any sort of advertisement or billboard or anything like that. So if it were me, I would lean into that 0 for 60. I think that is that's a beautiful promotion. It gets the monthly payment down into right around that $200 to $300 range. And honestly, even when you bundle the tax credit with that, what's going to happen for most people is they're just going to stick with that payment plan, and then the tax benefit, which will come to them later in 2026 in that April timeframe, really just becomes a benefit. We don't actually see a lot of people put that towards the purchase of their heating and air system. They usually just put that towards whatever next fun thing that they've got going on. So, and which is fine. That's totally okay. It's really the homeowner's choice at that point. But you got them to that point, and then they think of you, and that turns into a beautiful referral chain, right?
Yeah, I think it's helpful. When we're training salespeople and we're doing some consulting for contractors, we're saying, hey, there's two types of people. I mean, if I just oversimplify, two types of people that need financing: people that don't have money and people that do have money, which is everybody, right?
Which is everybody.
You want to skew your offer, right? The people that don't have money, what kind of buyer are they? Well, they're a monthly payment buyer. So we need that monthly payment down as low as possible. So and it doesn't mean they have to, if we offered them 120 months, they don't have to pay for 120 months. If they get the low payment for a while, they get a bonus, they can pay it off, something like that. Most people will pay that off way before the 120 months part. The people who have money, they've got it somewhere. Maybe they've got it in, a CD, but it's probably in the stock market. Maybe it's in the retirement accounts, whatever. They would rather leave it there. They could get it if they needed it, but they would rather leave it there. So where the people that don't have money are low payment buyers, the people with money are low interest buyers. And, if an interest rate today is 6.5%, 7%, almost anything less than that is acceptable. So even if you picked, like you said, the 2.99 or 4.99, I can keep my dealer fee down low and still attract that type of buyer. I think, so the other thing we would do is we would pick a product. And so this is where the conversation with my account manager would come in, because I use Service Titan. We could get a ton of data out of Service Titan, but we didn't track. I mean, the data you get out is just the data that you're inputting. And one of the things that we didn't really track is product mix. So how many systems am I selling that are single stage or multi-stage or variable? And so that's where, sitting down with my account manager, we would have a conversation. He might say, hey, Steven, you guys are killing it in the single stage, maybe just kind of 14 SEER that you're using for bare minimum. A lot of times for us, those were folks that just public housing or something. I mean, multifamily type housing situations. 15 SEER, meaning, as Mark said, hey, those get tax credits. And then we did a decent job at selling some of the higher end, the variable systems, where we had a gap, was kind of that middle tier. And so my business partner, Tim, and I would say, well, heck, we're not selling those anyway right now. So why not take a financing offer put it on there, make sure that we've built in the pricing to cover the dealer fee and all that stuff. But why not put that in there and advertise it and use that as the guinea pig to go, hey, is anybody going to buy it? So that for us was, so this, in this case, I would say, man, if you haven't sold many of those 17 SEER heat pumps, this might be the time to say, well, heck, you're not selling any anyway. Why don't you take a great Wells Fargo finance offer, put it on there and advertise it, and see what happens. It allows you as the dealer to go, hey, is my advertising working? Is this a good product that people are going to buy, and so on?
Yeah. And then going a little further in that, what about advertising that, making it the system that homeowners want to go to, and then looking at maybe a spiff plan, right? How now can, and maybe I'm just kind of shooting in the dark here, but did you have any experience with spiff plans? Did you spiff guys? Yeah. So success, or is it just a waste of money and we just don't know where the dollars go?
Well, what are we trying to do as a business owner? What am I trying to do with a spiff? Well, I'm trying to make whatever that product line is top of mind for my selling techs or my sales guys, right? I'm trying to say, hey, we need to be looking at this. And so, I think it's a great tool to say, okay, what are we going to do if there's a product line I, as a business owner, want to drive? And we're going to talk about that today, because I think you want to be, as a business owner, you want to say, what am I going to drive this fall? Not just, hey, let's see what people want to buy.
What's going to
let's drive it. Let's drive sales. Yeah. So, that's where we would say, okay, we're going to pick a product, 17 SEER multi-speed unit. Let's go for it, right? We're going to say, all right, we got to put a spiff on it. Let's do that. Let's put a finance offer. We could build it all in there. I use Pricebook Plus. Lots of people use Field Edge or Service Titan, whatever, but you build it all in, you bundle it up, and then you got to advertise it. And so I think part of it, the advertising, is twofold. I like to think of things in buckets. So you've got your people that aren't your customers right now. And so we're going to advertise that on Google. A lot of times we use Search Kings for Google. So we're out there pushing ads and whatnot, trying to capture that. But this is also a product line that I think you want to look at. Who are your existing customers that you would sell to, right? Like, what kind of existing customers would say, hey, let me go ahead and buy a unit? So there's some buckets there I think are worth talking about.
And I've agreed. So where should I be looking for those existing customers? Who within my book of business would be the right person to talk to about this kind of thing?
Well, I think existing customers are nice because for the most part, you've got their phone number, you got their email, and so on. So, one category would be, and this is where having good data in your FSM really helps out, right? But just going back, let's say you go back 3 years and you pull every customer that's had a repair over $300, right? That potentially, not everybody, but that potentially is a group of customers that, hey, their unit's already had a repair once, maybe they've had a repair twice, and for whatever reason, they haven't replaced the system. That's the kind of customer that needs to know, hey, you might be able to get another year or two out of this thing, but if you do it now, it's going to save you several $1,000s. So I think that is probably first and foremost. It costs you nothing to advertise to those folks. You can text them and email them right out of your, your customer service management software, right? So that's free. I think that is step number one. Sort those people, get them into a bucket. But again, put a promotion together. Like, we're going to have our fall. You're going to have a manufacturer rebate this fall. You probably got utility rebates. So you want to look all of that up. Put your own little, hey, we're throwing in $250 too. And again, I'm just building that into my price, but I've got dealer promo, manufacturer promo, utility company promo, federal government tax credits ending. And so you can put together a pretty good advertising campaign just based on that.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know what about conversations like this make me want to go shopping. That probably says more about me. Like the girl math within me is like, I'm saving so much money, but that's what it feels like.
Yeah. But literally, if you've got somebody, we would run this exercise with our service technicians a lot. We would say, hey, let's say it's a 12-year-old unit and it's a $250 repair. Not that you're going to tell that customer they have to buy a new unit. but would you even bring it up? And most of our technicians initially would go, no, I wouldn't bring it up. It's $250 repair. We say, okay, well, let's how much longer do you think a 12-year-old unit, we're going to do a 250 repair? Could they get another year out of it, 2 years out of it, 3 years out of it? And most of the time, I mean, we never know, right? But if you look at the math and you say, okay, it's going to cost them 12 grand to put a new unit in today or a $250 repair. Well, if they spend the 12 grand and they get a tax credit, let's say it's a $2,000 tax credit, you get the utility company rebate and so on. I mean, their net cost on that's maybe $9. If you look at the person who spends the $250 repair and they wait a year or two, well, now it's not a $12,000 system. Now it's 12.8. And then the year after that, it's 13.2 and so on. So that person, instead of spending a net cost of $9 plus the $250 repair, that person spent almost $14,000. That's a $5,000 swing in 2 years. So what we would say to the service techs is just offer it, right? Just, hey, I know it's a $250 repair, but you're probably going to buy a new unit in the next couple of years. If you buy it now instead, it's going to save you $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. I mean, just between inflation, supply chain, loss of the tax credit, utility rebate savings. I mean, if the new unit saves you any money at all, it was worth switching.
It's worth the switch. Yeah, definitely. What about, okay, so I've got a group on my advertising. I put a plan together. I have leveled out all the different pieces that I'm going to use to make the offer compelling. What happens when I actually get a few homeowners to bite on this? And now all of a sudden I went from this, shoulder season kind of slump that a lot of contractors talk to us about. Now all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I've got to go put in all these tax qualifying systems. Now what?
Yeah. Well, again, if I had my business partner, Tim, sitting right here, he would say, we got to do labor planning, right? So, I mean, if this tax credit surge hits December 15th to December 31st, I mean, I was in Denver, Colorado. Pretty cold. We're running full speed ahead in December, but I live in South Carolina now. So South Carolina, a lot of our guys are taking vacation either the week before, the week after Christmas. And so if you're not planning ahead to have a surge, maybe everybody puts in for their vacation time, and next thing you know, 60% of your workforce is gone. So I think this is one where you would say, okay, let's be strategic. Who's taking off for Thanksgiving? Who's taking off before Christmas? Who's taking off for after Christmas? And if at all possible, can any of you take off, let's say, the first week of January instead? And just thinking through, because if I had everybody take off the week between Christmas and New Year's at once, man, we could lose so much money by just not having the capacity at that point. So I think we would look at that and go, right now, end of August, now's when we need to start planning, fall break, Christmas break, Thanksgiving. When's everybody taking their vacation time? So that would be a big one. Yeah,
it sometimes advice like this, when we're giving it, can feel like such a basic, right? But it's one of those things that a simple conversation, a team huddle in August can really influence, some good company culture come holiday time, because nobody likes to feel like they're being told, oh, you can't do this because you have to work. Like that's a gross feeling for anybody, any career, anywhere.
That's tough. Yeah.
Get ahead of it a little bit now, but again, don't do this without all of the good work that you've done in your advertising and in your sales planning. But getting ahead of that discussion now with the team to say, hey, we're doing this strategically because we want to crush it at the end of the year, and we've got this huge incentive to help get us there. That can be the difference between, a really good, happy, solid company, high-fiving then on December 31st and some sour grapes, sitting around at the holidays.
Yeah. I think there's one thing that goes hand in hand. We got maybe one or two more things, but one thing to talk about. So we talked about advertising for a second, and I think that's important, right? The email blast, text messages, maybe even having your call center. If you got any CSRs in the office, make some outbound calls, because we're going to get slow at some point. Maybe you're still in the middle of summer rush, but if you've got some time this fall where we slow down, make those outbound calls. And so I think if we talk about sales for 1 second, what would you say on an outbound call? And then the other category of conversation, let's say you're doing maintenance agreements and you're out there doing maintenance. What would you say in those two scenarios? And I think, again, now's the time. I mean, we're holding this webinar right now strategically to say, we need to be planning for these things. So, with starting with that model of the service tech, Mary, let's pretend you're a homeowner and I'm a service tech. And here's the challenge is the unit's running fine. I'm just coming out for fall maintenance. And so if I say to you, well, Mary, you're going to need to replace this thing. What's your take on that as a homeowner?
If that's all you said to me, I would probably look at you and go, yeah, probably, but we're good.
We're good. Yeah. At Sandler, we would say, we would call it in terms of not wanting to be a sales pitch, right? We would say going negative, right? In the sense that I want to talk to you about replacing your system, but I'm going to acknowledge the fact that it's running fine. I'm just here to do maintenance. Mm-hmm. And so the going negative piece, I would say, hey, Mary, everything's working great. There is no need at all to buy a new system. But I want to mention it to you for two reasons, right? And just coaching your service techs to say that, that takes a little bit of practice. And just, hey, two things. One is, based on the age of the unit, you probably are going to need to replace it at some point in the next few years. Could make it another 12 months, could make it another 36 months. I got no idea. It's working right now. But the other thing is there's a tax credit out there that ends this year. So if you had to replace your unit next year, the year after, you would really wish you had done it this year. So I want to bring it up and just say, hey, no need to do it. No rush. Nothing's urgent. But if you'd like to talk about what that looks like, now's probably time to have the conversation. And you may decide we're not going to do it now. We're going to do it next year or the year after, in which case, no worries at all. But I just wanted to bring it to your attention, right? So I think that type of conversation, service technicians a lot of times are not used to that. Our maintenance technicians, if you work at a large company, you've got the guys that do the repairs and then you got your maintenance guys, and those are often your rookies. And so those guys need the coaching. You want to be in on those service technician meetings to go, hey, let's talk through how you might bring this up to a homeowner. The other thing I think is really helpful is to, again, I'm old. So we used to just make a cheat sheet for the service techs and laminate it. These days they got iPads. So just a single page PDF or something like that, where they can say to a homeowner, hey, you kind of fit this category. Nothing's wrong. Nothing's broken, but you're probably in the next few years, you're going to need to buy a new unit. Would you mind taking a look at this? And if it's on the screen on the iPad, or you got a laminated flyer or something like that, I think that just helps stimulate the conversation. So if you're sitting down with your account manager, pick your product line, bundle your pricing, put it together, get it in the hands of your maintenance techs. I think that's huge.
What I like about that approach the most is you are acknowledging that, hey, your unit is fine and it is working. Immediate relief in my mind, because okay, we're okay today. But guess what? I don't know what I don't know. And yes, I am a homeowner, but do I keep up with, and I'm familiar with heating and air tax credits because of the work that I do, but most people aren't, right? Most of my friends and neighbors have no idea what goes on in my industry. I say R54B to them. They look at me like I, have three heads. So most people just really aren't up and aware on exactly what those credits are, and let alone when they expire. So just bringing that up and planting that seed. And if I know how the universe works, at least in my house, you say something like that, I'll probably still pass. And in 4 weeks, I'm calling you again. Now, if it's 4 weeks in October and I still have a chance to squeeze in by the end of the year, good for me. But, if it's more close to the end of the deadline of the tax credit, then I missed out. But at least you told me about it. That's the other thing. Yeah. I hate the idea of people going into homes and saying, it would be great for you to replace this unit. No, I'm good. And then we never even mentioned the opportunity, because guess what? When they call you then in January and February and say, oh, darn, you just mixed out on that tax credit. What tax credit? We never talked about a tax credit.
Yeah. And I think, the marketing adage is that people need to see or hear something somewhere between 7 and 10 times before it really sinks in. So part of it is you're thinking, okay, it's August. I've got an existing customer base. I got all my maintenance agreement customers. I've got people that don't have maintenance agreements, but we did repairs for them. And so if I try to fit 7 to 10 touches in the month of December, it's going to feel rough. But to start now, to send the email out now, to maybe send him a text message with a link to a landing page that talks about the tax credit ending, to have your maintenance tech bring it up in October when he's doing maintenance. I mean, if you can start planting those seeds now, you're creating the demand that you're going to have at the end of the year. And it's farming. We're going to plant seeds. We're going to go get that harvest in at the end of November, beginning of December. So I think that's the mentality, is let's plant those seeds now.
What about a little bit of business planning action, a little bit of labor planning action? What about the product itself? If I don't have the history of the 2010 events, right? How do I know what I should be bringing in to anticipate this demand so that, I'm not holding my distributor hostage for more units?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, we would sit down and we would look at a couple things. I mean, what's your typical summertime demand? I mean, if you picked your busiest week this summer, how busy were you? And if that week showed up at the end of December, could you handle it? I mean, that essentially was part of it. And I think for a lot of us, I mean, if we knew, let's say we had the crystal ball back in February and we said, hey, might be hard to get some units, might be hard to get some refrigerant. What would we do in February? Well, man, I would have gone and rented a storage unit and started stocking equipment. So I think to some extent, you got to have that same mentality and go, okay, we think there's a surge coming. So what do we want to do with that surge? For us, I mean, we need a week to figure out where it's going to go, right? So, I mean, that's the other piece to go, okay, from a logistics standpoint, when's the equipment going to come in? Can we leverage our buying power to say to my territory manager, hey, I'm gonna drive sales. I'm not going to just sit around and see what customers want. I'm going to say, hey, we're going to stock. Let's just pick that 17 SEER multi-speed again. Let's stock these things. Let's get the coils we need. Let's get the outdoor units we need. Maybe we need some furnaces. Let's put it on a stocking order. Let's try to get some terms so we can spread out our payments. And then we're going to go after it just full bore. So I got my labor in place. I got my advertising in place. I got my sales in place. I got my business planning in place. Like, you could blow it out Q4.
You can't really do one well without the other. You can do lots of things well, but all of these things really need to sing on the same sheet of music. And we see that so often. So, please don't take what Stephen and I say in business planning and advertising and then don't give yourself a chance with the product. Because nothing sounds a little sillier than saying, hey, I've got a great promotion for you. How does 3 weeks from today sound? You want to go firing on all cylinders with that one. So that's a really great point.
One last thing, and I'll throw this out there because this is just the sales side of me and I can't help it. Not every company has dedicated salespeople. A lot of companies have selling technicians. So this would be hard to do with a selling technician, but a dedicated sales guy, this should be in your wheelhouse. One of the things that I did when I was an RSP was I would go around and network, and I would work the Chamber of Commerce. I was in a lead share group like a BNI, lots of those types of things. And in 2010, one of the things that really fueled my big boom at the end was a group of CPAs that I had gotten to know. And so what they would do is they would allow me to do kind of a lunch and learn. And so I would say, and this is the time, if you want to get in front of CPAs, this is the time of the year to do it. Don't wait till the end of the year. And obviously they couldn't get to you in Q1 or Q2 anyway, they're slammed. So right now, this is the time of the year to go get in front of CPAs. You buy everybody a $15 lunch, you bring it in, you got some sweet tea, you got some lemonade or whatever you do. And so the lunch and learn is just, hey guys, tax credit's ending. They know that. You say, hey, here's some scenarios. I like to use real life customers. Here's Mr. Jones. His unit was 15 years old. We could have repaired it. The repair would have been $1,500. It would have lasted for a few more years. When he bought it, projecting out a year or two at 7 or 8% rising costs, like it would have cost him way more. If he does it right now, Mr. Jones gets a $2,000 tax credit and saves the repair. And let's say it knocks $5 to $10 a month off his utility bill. I mean, it doesn't have to be massive savings. If it saves Mr. Jones any money at all, now it's like saved $120 this year, saved $120 next year, right? And so, just here's some things that are going on in our industry that you as a CPA should know about. So this is the time of year. If you are a business owner, maybe you've had some conversations with your CPA where you go, hey, I'm going to need some new vans. Should I buy them now? And it doesn't have to be business owners. Wealthy people do tax planning with their CPAs way before the end of the year. How much should I give away in charitable giving? Well, December is a massive month for charitable giving. If you've ever been on the board of a charity or nonprofit or done any fundraising for that kind of thing, December's the month. It all hits then. Why? Because people are getting to the end of the year and they're like, hey, what am I doing on taxes? How much are you going to pay? How much should I give away? So go do a lunch and learn, call your CPA, say, I'm coming into your office. I'm bringing lunch for everybody. It's going to take 15 minutes. We're going to talk heating and air. And one of my favorite things is when the CPAs start asking me questions about how the tax credit works. And I'm like, look, guys, you're not allowed to fix air conditioners. I'm not allowed to give tax advice. I'll tell you about the air conditioning side. Y'all figure that out. And usually if you get 3 or 4 of them in a room, if one of them has a question, the other 3 can answer it. So I didn't have to ever answer a tax question. I'm like, I don't know. I'm the heating and air guy. And so it was super easy. It feels intimidating to go talk to some CPAs about tax stuff. It's not, because I only have to be an expert in heating and air. I don't have to be an expert in tax. That's what they're doing. But it plants those seeds. And I sold 4 or 5 systems that ended up being over $30,000 that year because we redid ductwork, we redid everything. But it came out of a tax planning conversation that a CPA had with their client to say, might want to go ahead and do it this year. And so then I get out there and I'm like, well, you're probably going to want to do the ductwork. I mean, that's just as old. And so when you look at that, 3 or 4 different sales, all right, 4 sales. So what? Well, 4 sales at 30 grand a pop for me as an individual sales guy, that was a big deal. And that was 2010. I mean, again, adjust for inflation. Those were big jobs for us. So man, I think if you got salespeople, my sales guys that reported to me, I would say you're doing a lunch and learn every 2 weeks for the rest of the year. So go find your CPAs, go knock on some doors, go cold call, like call your Chamber of Commerce, go, hey, is there a CPA on the board of directors? I'm a member of the Chamber of Commerce. I want to go meet with my board member. Whatever leverage you've got, I would get in front of them and go, hey, just FYI. Here's what's ending this year, because even just 1 or 2 referrals from those guys they're going to be big ticket sales.
Yeah, I hit him with the old Arnold Palmer method, right? A little lemonade, little tea. That might be the official drink of HVAC Full Blast. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
Oh man, that's great. Well, there's been a lot of great information. Very appreciative of Joe for manning the chat for us. That's always so helpful. And if you haven't had a chance to work with Joe, he is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to really like the nitty gritty of what's going on in this space. Mark Woodruff, always a delight to talk to you if you're still out there in the megasphere. But great knowledge on the systems. And again, some of those resources that Stacy had shown earlier can tell you a lot more about the product specifically, but our customer-facing websites also have some fantastic tools that will tell you right off the bat which systems qualify and for what amounts they qualify for as well. So definitely encourage you to visit our customer-facing websites, which we can absolutely share when we send out this information to you. But other than that, I mean, I think we've covered a lot of ground here. We've got like some different kind of lead gen ideas, what I can do with some advertising, what I can do to plan out labor, what should I do to bring in inventory. I feel like there's a lot of action items that anyone could pull from right away, but is there anything else that if we close this webinar right now, you would feel like, oh, I wish I had said that?
And I went ahead and made a little form. I'm not traveling this week, but the rest of the fall, I'm doing sales training events. And so this week's a good week to catch me. I made a little form. I dropped it in chat. If somebody's got a question, if they want to talk through, I don't have all the answers. I'm not a TM. I can't help you like this thing. But like, if you just want to brainstorm, I would say, drop.
Wow, came prepared with a form. I feel like all I can share is my email. Whoa, showing me up big time. No, that's great. And please use Stephen. He's an amazing resource, really creative. Now is not the time to be downtrodden. Now's the time to really be creative and think about how you're going to go flex this opportunity and capture it all before the end of the year. I think that's all the time that we have today. We've done filled this hour pretty quickly, it felt. But if you guys have any questions, we'll put out some contact information. And we really just thank you all so much for your time today. Really do appreciate it.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.